First off, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's joining us today from around the world. My name is Brian Murphy. I'm the CEO of Smartling. I'm really excited. I'm entering my fourth year as CEO of Smartling, which is pretty remarkable when I think about it. But it's been an amazing journey so far, being part of the translation localization industry, and certainly it's amazing how much change we've been through over the last several years. And so, kind of in tone with that, we're going to do our top 5 translation trends prediction for 2025. And as Cassie just pointed out, a couple quick reminders here. We're going to be recording this session. There's also the opportunity to do a Q&A at the end here. I think we'll see how much time we have left over. But our goal is to have some Q&A that we can do here. But let me start with an intro once again. So myself, Brian Murphy, I'm the CEO of Smartling, and I've been once again been here for going into my fourth year. I've been building e-commerce and software companies for the past 25 years or so, and I sort of view myself as a consumer of, I came into this space thinking about being a customer of translation localization. Every website, every software product that I've ever had has been localized, and so that's the perspective I take towards it, which is providing really great solutions for our customers, like formerly myself. Some of the businesses, I was vice president of vertical markets at eBay for a few years. I was the founder and CEO of WHI, which was a software company, and I've also served as the CEO of Breather and president of digital for Sir Simmons. So lots of different digital experiences to draw upon. So I'd like to introduce Olga Beregovaya, our vice president of AI. Olga has 25 years of experience in language technology, NLP, machine learning, global content transformation, and AI development. Olga's passionate about growing businesses through driving change and innovation. Olga started her career in language technology, building lexicons and rules for rule-based MT, expanding her expertise into broader applications of NLP and machine learning to enterprise translation workflows. Olga has also served as the president of AMTA, and vice president and technology program sponsor for Women in Localization, and is an engineering leadership advisor for Cal State University, Chico. So welcome, Olga.
Thank you.
All right, so if we're going to do predictions for 2025, it's only fair to see how we performed against our predictions in 2024. So here were the 5 predictions that we made in 2024. And if we go to the next slide, we'll see how we think we fared against those. And Olga, I'll ask you to sort of maybe give a brief commentary on where we ended up. So it looks like, okay, 3 for 5. Green, pretty good, and then yellow, so not quite red. So let's talk a little bit about predictions 1 through 5.
Okay, so here we are. As Brian said, we have 3 out of 5, which is pretty reasonable stats. So if we go the first one, new opportunities for accessibility with multimodality models. I think that's the one where we probably saw that strongest performance, and fascinating things were happening in 2024 when it comes to driving accessibility, be it speech impairment, be it dyslexia, dysgraphia, be it pretty much everything else. If you think about it, we have automated speech recognition and speech to text that's reached unprecedented heights. So obviously people who have hearing impairment, they can now actually, they have access to the resources they would not have access to before due to multimodality. Absolutely the same. Here we have speech and synthetic speech. Again, before it sounded completely robotic, and now it sounds completely natural. So that's one. Smaller and smarter models will emerge, and we'll talk about it a little bit in our predictions for 25. But the reality is, large language models, foundational models, are designed for a variety of tasks. And how about we design smaller models that are tailored to specific language groups and specific set of translation tasks? Definitely work to do, but definitely a lot has happened, a lot has evolved. Continuing role for NMT, yes. Our Smartling benchmarking still shows that NMT is still outshining LLMs and even more so foundational, not fine-tuned LLMs when it comes to machine translation. So here are our three ultimate success cases. Now, long-tail languages, still a lot of work to do. Better LLM support for long-tail languages. We're going there, but out of the world's north of 7,000, I think 7,200 languages, the coverage is still definitely not sufficient when it comes to LLM support, which introduces something that's referred now to AI divide as opposed to digital divide. Regulations and restrictions around AI again, same thing. So here we are, three out of five, but pretty successful altogether.
Yeah, great, super interesting year. Incredible how much change and development occurred. So we're really excited, and I think that I see the pace of acceleration changing as we head into 25. So without further ado, let's get to our first prediction of 2025.
Here we go.
AI will reach human parity translation. Olga, this is a huge prediction. How can you possibly say this?
With a little bit of fear, but high level of confidence. How about that? AI will reach human parity translation. Again, if we go back to our Smartling benchmarking, pretty interesting things are happening. When we evaluate, when we use the standard set of automated metrics, we see that for some languages, we're like a healthy 70% human parity translation when it comes to certain languages and content types. Again, these are higher resourced languages, more, if it's the right word, more common languages, but we definitely see that if we just look at how many edits our translators are making on the platform, they often don't touch a segment at all, don't touch a string at all. So there it is. Now, human parity, what is it, right? It's what a human would do. And it definitely is on its trajectory there. And edit distance is shrinking. So even if we have not reached human parity translation, we're definitely getting there. Now, important thing is, how do you measure human parity? You definitely want to be confident and you want to have trust in human parity translation. It's easy to say, and you probably remember like 7 years ago, a lot of claims were made around human parity translation, but then it was very easy to unpack it and say, like, hey, Mom, we're a little bit overfitted, and the content was super simple. What's happening now is when AI reaches what we believe, when we believe AI reaches.
Uh-oh, looks like we've lost Olga temporarily. So yeah, just kind of continuing on that vein, I think I think that this is a big bet. We are seeing edit distances shrink pretty dramatically. We definitely see this trend occurring, and so we think a lot about trust, right? So how do we know if we're able to create this human parity translation? How do we know that that's happening? How do we ensure that we've got extremely high quality translation happening out there, being delivered at scale, and in the proper brand voice? So these are a lot of the things that we're thinking about today, as we head into this world where we do believe that sooner than later we're going to be reaching human parity. So why don't we go to the next prediction? So AI will become reliable enough for widespread trust and adoption, right? So I think this is part and parcel of the first, right? So is AI reliable enough for us to be able to use this at scale across enterprises? So Olga, we've moved on here. Now you're back, and no worries.
Yeah, I apologize, guys, for a second and back again. So look for human parity. Let's go to the next one. It will not enough widespread trust and adoption. So again, how can we know that AI is reliable? How can we know that it's ready without introducing risks? And how can we know that we can build trust and adoption into AI? One thing that I wanted to mention, and I didn't mention it before, and again, I disappeared for a couple of minutes, apologize for that. I don't know if we spoke about hallucinations. And if we did not speak about hallucinations, AI will become only reliable enough for widespread trust and adoption when issues and risks that come with AI have been mitigated. And those would be false fluency, right? When it looks fluent, but it's actually not accurate. Those would be hallucinations. Models quite often hallucinate, and again, they can produce completely unpredictable outcomes. They can be biases. So once those things actually have been mitigated, that's where we know that, okay, AI is reliable for trust and adoption. How can you know that? There is something called direct assessment, where you really have humans looking at AI output and saying, okay, we have confidence in it, we don't have confidence in it. Then there are a lot of automated methods and metrics that allow us to monitor the performance of AI and know that it is reliable. And then obviously there are a lot of regulations, which we'll talk about later. So again, if we talk a little bit about how we approach it at Smartling, AI and natural language processing have evolved, and quite a bit they can be self-policing. So AI actually can police or can monitor the performance of AI. And once you have reached certain metrics, once you have reached a certain level of confidence, that's where you're saying, okay, AI has become reliable, and you can implement it across your organization. In our case, it's obviously language AI and language application translation, or global content applications of AI. You can implement them across your organization without introducing significant risks. The other thing that I think we also need to talk about is ethical and responsible AI. When we implement AI, reliability is not just the quality of the output. Reliability is also, can it potentially cause any harm? Can it potentially introduce any risks? Can it potentially breach any kind of ethical standards? And again, once you have a clear risk mitigation strategy and are confident that you are introducing no harm with implementing your AI strategy, that's where you can say, okay, widespread trust and adoption. And what does it mean for you? You've implemented AI, you've eliminated a certain degree of human effort. You obviously have saved, right? You're getting things to market faster and at a fraction of a cost, and you're able to automate and optimize your processes. So again, that's pretty much prediction number 2. And we watching what's happening in the world. I think that the world, and in our case, translation world, is definitely moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think that's really the key, right? As we can see that data, we see the AI becoming more accurate, the cost, the speed is all there. I think the key, the essential thing is developing a or a platform, a tool set that allows you through language, LQA and auditing in real time, automated and at scale, allows you to be able to deploy that global content with trust in order to enable that adoption. So I think that's really the exciting part of where the technology is going in conjunction, which is that AI translation step in 2025. So thanks, Olga. I think that's a super interesting and important point. So let's move on to prediction number 3. Okay. Localization teams will be required to align with business outcomes.
Okay. So let me try and speak to this one. So as we know, localization, and again, I've been around for 25 years running localization, enterprise localization programs and supplying technology for localization teams. What have localization teams traditionally been? And those of you who are attending this webinar who have been in loc for a long time would probably agree. Localization was a cost center, right? Just a line item, not just, but a line item in the P&L. And sometimes it would even be difficult to get funding or headcount for local organization because it's a cost center. And then the driver is like, hey, can you do the same thing cheaper? What's happening now is localization teams are viewed, and I think we all have evidence across a variety of organizations, and the way enterprise is actually working with their localization partners. Localization teams are really aligned with the business outcomes. And rather than being viewed as cost centers, localization teams are being viewed as revenue generating partner that is plugged into the content development or technology development process early on. What we've also seen, we all have the notion of quality, right? And we've been measuring success of localization and quality. And as much as we have quality frameworks, right, MQM, at the end of the day, what it really is quality is not just linguistic quality, it's the impact the content is making out there, the localized content is making out there. And we see localization teams getting a seat at the table very, very early on in product development or content development lifecycle. And localization KPIs, right? Localization KPIs, or in some organizations, OKRs, have definitely shifted from, hey, let's push this much content to this many countries, as opposed to that. Now we actually have, how are you turning moving the needle, and how are you actually impacting business outcomes? So I think the very role of localization organizations now in the age of AI has changed dramatically. The other thing that we see, which I think is extremely exciting in the world of AI, pretty much every department, most of the departments within enterprises would have some kind of AI initiatives. And a lot of those AI initiatives often are multilingual. They would start from English or wherever the country the content is and the product is developed in, but then those initiatives become multilingual. And what we see with localization departments, which I think is also pretty fascinating, is those departments actually are becoming the centralized hub for the company's AI initiatives across a variety of tasks and across a variety of departments. So I think the very role of LOC department has definitely pivoted, and that would become even stronger, and the LOC departments will be even more aligned with business outcomes in 2025. So that's our next prediction.
I think that's great. And if I could give some advice to folks that are listening in, as the CEO of a number of companies, on boards of a number of companies, here's my strong advice. Right, so we're all pretty good at measuring quality, cost, speed, automation, KPIs, right? As Olga mentioned, those are all internal to the translation localization departments, right? To be honest with you, the C-suite, the CEO doesn't really care that much about those things. What they care about is, okay, revenue. Like if I'm in the software business, perhaps, maybe I care, or e-commerce business, I care about revenue by new market, right? So we're launching into a new market. I've got revenue goals. How do we help achieve those? Other KPIs that people will pay attention to are engagement rates, conversion rates, MQLs by new market, et cetera. My suggestion is, whether you're in the marketing department or in the product department or customer experience department, whichever department it is, make sure you understand what the KPIs of that department are and what the company are, and then ladder your goals up against those and measure against them. That way, as we've seen in this year, like such massive pressure, right, on cost and team sizing and all of these kind of things, make sure that you're one of the essential teams. Because I get it, we get it. I do believe that's the case. It's really important for you guys to advocate for yourself in a way that aligns to the company's KPIs. So, and if you have any questions on that, we talk about that a lot with our customers. We're happy to spend time talking with you and helping you think about how you can do a better job of that. We're here to help. All right, thanks, Olga. That's really great. So, all right, prediction number 4. LLMs will evolve into SLMs trained for specific tasks. Olga, tell us more about this.
Okay, so if we go back to something that I mentioned earlier, and that was one of our 2024 predictions, LLMs, foundational models, they can do anything, right? And even more so, multi-modality models. They can calculate, they can write code, well, okay, with different degree of success, but foundational models, again, they are not trained and they're not tuned for translation-specific and language-specific tasks. And then there is another thing that we also need to be very mindful of. Are LLMs, like large language models, how are they actually helping long-tail languages? And again, there was one of our predictions for 2024 that definitely still needs a little bit of work. So what's happening is people are discovering, and we at Smartling are discovering, that, hey, either you take a large language model and you fine-tune it specifically for translation tasks, or you fine-tune it based on our customer content to get higher quality or higher translation quality or higher quality predictions. That's one direction. But what if you just take the data that you have and you really build small language model that's tailored specifically for your language set and that's tailored specifically for language related tasks, such as translation and such as quality estimation. Just one quick comment I want to make. I was pretty blown away by the fact that, again, out of the 7,200 world's languages, only this many languages are covered by foundational models. And we see a lot of incredible initiatives, local initiatives, either funded by governmental bodies or open source, crowdsource initiatives, where data is collected for those long tail languages and smaller language models trained for specific tasks are built. There is another upside to this. Hey, if you think about how much computational cost and how much computational power you actually need to run large language models, it's massive, right? And that's a big talk. That's big talk in town. So what if we actually pivot, especially now in translation industry, we pivot into smaller language models, and it's affordable, right? It's affordable that it significantly reduces our computational costs. So again, what does it mean for business? Lower computational costs and higher quality output and much broader long tail language coverage. So prediction 2024 needed work, and 25 looks pretty inspiring when we think about that.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Olga. All right, let's move on to prediction number 5. Models will be capable of independently creating and improving their own prompts. Does this mean that they become sentient, Olga?
Okay, so here is, we've been talking, like start 2023, 24. We've been talking about prompt engineering, right? And everybody got very comfortable with the term prompt engineering. Linguists, you know, if we speak about the role of human in the loop, linguists are engaged in designing language specific prompts. Nobody, like Bryan here and myself here, we speak what we speak, but neither of us speak Swahili or Hebrew. So we've been engaging linguists to validate and design prompts for specific languages. Now, here in 2024 and definitely going over to 2025, we have a new term, and that new term is prompt programming. And that's actually pretty interesting. And there is a lot of research, academic research, but there's emerging practical applications where, hey, you give the model its initial, I think it's called meta or mega prompt, and you give it the initial prompt, and then the model can, if the model can produce anything, the model can produce its own prompt. So there are a lot of experimentation, and there are some successes in a model can write their own prompt. Now, let's be very mindful of human in the loop. We still need a human to, first of all, for the reinforcement learning part, and that human needs to produce very valid and very impactful and potentially successful initial prompt. But from there, the machines, the models can actually take over. So here we are moving from prompt engineering to prompt programming. Now, one very important thing, maybe I will touch on supervised and unsupervised learning. There is another very interesting thing. Models can prompt, but models actually can also label the data sets. And we know that it was a huge cost item to, and still is huge cost item to have human labeled data set. For instance, in our universe where labeling for quality is essential for us to be able to produce quality. And here we are, like coming to the world where machines can write prompts, they can label themselves, they can label for automated MQM and so forth. So here we are, human in the loop is very important, but machines can take over on more mundane tasks when it comes to prompt engineering. Again, what it means for you practically, you can take your products to market faster because your dependency on human prompt engineering is reducing. It's not going away, but it's definitely getting lower.
That's great. That's super interesting, Olga. Really amazing, really amazing technology and where we think it's going to go over the next 12 to 24 months. So that's 5 predictions because we like to overpromise and underdeliver. No, how's that go? We like to underpromise and overdeliver. We have a bonus prediction. So let's see what that is. Linguists with an understanding of data science will be the most sought after professionals in the industry. Olga, why don't you tell us a little bit more about this?
There we go. So there is a lot of debate in our industry, and I wouldn't go as localization industry or translation industry. I would say global content transformation industry, right? Because now we're in the world of potentially generating target copy without even having a source, or in the world where, again, you can generate both source and target at the same time, you still translate. And the biggest debate is that, hey, we have a lot of linguists and very talented, highly skilled people. What's going to happen, especially in the light of our previous discussion about human parity? What would be the role of the linguist going forward when the need for validation and translation delta is shrinking? What comes to mind? The first thing that comes to mind is, hey, the machine output, the generative AI, large language model, or even NMT output is important. So what do we need? We need linguists who can actually not only look at the results and give it thumbs up, thumbs down, as some of prompt engineering tools do now. We actually would need linguists who can both validate the output of large language models, and they are also, as they're experimenting and iterating on the prompts, language-specific prompts, we also want linguists who actually can interpret the automated metrics that those experiments can produce. So we don't expect linguists to be data scientists, right? Some people are just with a humanities mindset, and some people have no interest in becoming data scientists. But the most sought after, and that's what we're learning at Smartling as well, the hardest, most difficult resource to source is somebody who's a linguist, somebody who's a translator, but have enough understanding of data science to actually be able to interpret results of automated quality evaluation, quality estimation, and other metrics, and determine where to pivot from here and where to go from here. So the big recommendation, again, we know the talent that we need most here at Smartling, and the biggest recommendation would be like, hey, if you're a linguist, take some time, learn the basics of data science, and you'll be an absolutely priceless resource.
Yeah, agreed on this. This has been a big topic of conversation all the past 12, 24 months. And my thoughts on this are that this is one of the oldest stories of time, right? Technology improving to the point where it impacts people's professions, right? It goes all the way back as far as we can imagine. And as I think about this, it not only affects translators and linguists, it affects software engineers, it affects lawyers, it affects everyone that's in the business of producing something. And my thinking on this whole industry is that as the technology improves, and as it has been, cost comes down and puts us in a position where customers can begin to reduce or eliminate their rationing of words, right? We all ration how much content we translate because of the cost, right? Or our ability to handle the scale. So technology begins to remove those impediments, allowing us to translate and localize more and more content at a more cost-effective price. And that's really what we want, like the same way that cloud services have allowed us to scale out cloud applications or data storage, et cetera. As that cost and automation comes up, we're able to start being more and more productive. That's what's happening here. So I highly recommend, I agree with Olga, there's the linguists that have the ability to scale up with this new technology are going to be incredibly valuable. And we're working to develop those skill sets with our linguist partners each and every day. But it is one of the big issues. So, all right. Let's get ready to, why don't we put up the next screen, which is a summary of the predictions here, right? So number one prediction is AI will reach human parity. Number two is AI will become reliable enough for widespread trust and adoption. Number three, localization teams will be required to align with business outcomes. Number four, LLMs will evolve into SLMs. Number five, models will be capable of independently creating and improving their own prompts. And the bonus prediction is that linguists with an understanding of data science will be the most sought after professionals in the industry. I think this is a great slate of predictions, one that we're actively involved with each and every day. And we're excited about where we see this industry going. Olga, do you have some takeaways and next steps for us here before we get into the Q&A?
Yeah, I absolutely do. So what are the takeaways? I mean, the takeaway is very simple, right? The cat is out of the bag and AI is absolutely here to stay. And I guess my recommendation and what I would recommend as the next steps, or what we recommend as the next steps based on our experiences, step one, just have a look at your tech stack. Have a look at your tech stack and see, are we on par with where the industry and where technology is going? Or is there anywhere where you can potentially be, I don't want to use the word behind, but there is potential for optimization of your tech stack with the introduction of AI. So a strong tech stack audit, whether you do it yourselves internally or whether you engage a trusted partner, that would be a first health step, right? Then start incorporating AI methods. There is enough existing technology, right? There are platforms, and again, I'm speaking from Smartling perspective, there are platforms out there that already utilize AI, right, and language AI for translation. So again, what we were talking about earlier, I mean, what we talk about here is 2024 became a year of measured approach. So 2024 is a year of measured approach. Now we have enough learnings to actually safely and responsibly start incorporating AI into your end-to-end translation process. Now we need to be very mindful of the fact that not all content will render itself perfectly well to AI-based translation or content generation. But there's definitely a very, very healthy group of content type that can either be published without human in the loop or engaging human in the loop. So start incorporating AI. There is enough knowledge, and there is, again, enough we've accumulated enough metrics to know how to incorporate AI. Now, the next one would be partner up with your compliance and governance teams. We do know, and again, our prediction for 2024, one of our predictions for 24, that there'll be a lot more regulations and governance around implementing AI. And now, actually, I was amazed. We spoke to one of enterprises, and they said they even have a role of corporate ethicist. So somebody who's actually looking after implementation of different new technologies and making sure it's done in an ethical way. So make sure you're aligned with your regulations, legal, and compliance department when you implement AI, so there are no surprises and no questions. And then again, there is only this much you can do in-house. You wouldn't have all the language expertise in-house. So the strong recommendation would be, and the strong next step would be, partner up with somebody, partner up with a trusted advisor, trusted company who has been doing it and has been promoting multilingual AI, and that who will be able to take on the burden or the responsibility of making your AI implementation multilingual. So I believe if these are taken on board as next steps, that would get you to a very, very good place when it comes to implementing AI in 2025.
That's great. Thanks, Olga, for that. So we've got 10 minutes left, and we've got a couple of questions here that have come in. So I'll ask the question to Olga. The first question is, do you think linguists will adopt this transition of data science as they feel their years of skill set is being dismissed by AI?
I think we're really not talking dismissed. I think we're really talking a certain degree of reskilling and upskilling. So I would say that it's pretty much you get on board, or you really will need to think about what exactly am I going to do with my profession. So I think, again, those linguists who are able to add prompt engineering, validation of prompt programming, and all the things that I was talking about when it comes to data science, I think those linguists will really thrive. Now, if you're like say your profession right now is a professional translator, first of all, there is still content that requires professional translation. There is still content that absolutely requires human validation. So I think combining your existing skill set with a new necessary skill set, that's the path to the future, and that's what we embrace. I'll just use one quick analogy. Remember what was happening in the years of machine translation post editing? There was a lot of concern, like, hey, I'm a linguist, damn, what am I going to do now, right? I am there to clean up after the machine. And what happened? Hey, 10 years later, machine translation post editing field was completely embraced by the linguist community. So I think we're on exact same trajectory.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's interesting when you think about all the technology over the last 20 years or so that have changed and impacted the translation and localization industry. This is another extension of that. It's a pretty significant change. And I think that, it's our job in a big way, right, to make sure that we help provide those tool sets to the linguists so that they can thrive and survive in an environment like this. Like once again, I think what happens, and we see this happening exactly in our industry over the last couple of years, is as we've introduced more AI, as we've introduced better MT and better tools, and that efficiency has increased, our customers have dramatically increased the quantity of words that they're translating, which requires growth. Our translation business is growing 50% year over year, and so that necessitates very skilled linguists that have these new sets of skills. So we'll be working closely to make sure the tool sets are usable and that we're able to provide the training that we can so they can be successful in this environment. I think that's a really important point. I think these folks have an incredible set of skills that need to be applied regardless of the technology that's impacting it. Okay, so next question is kind of similar. The question is, when you say linguist with an understanding of data science, is that the same or similar to MTPE certified linguists?
This is a fantastic question, actually, because it actually is very, very similar now when you think about it. Again, going back to the years of MTPE, and to Bryan's point, actually, it's on us as technology providers to make sure that we provide the right work surface and the right training for the linguists who get the new technology introduced to them. Remember when we rolled out MTPE, a lot of training was delivered to linguists about the core principles of machine translation. And again, I go back in the industry long enough to remember how we were training linguists on this is how rule-based machine translation works. And these are the errors that you need to look out for, right? Because rule-based machine translation lacked dramatically in fluency. Then statistical machine translation, again, we needed to train. Suddenly, the training materials for linguists were overhauled again because statistical machine translation operated in a different way and introduced different type of errors. And again, you absolutely taught translators core principles of statistical. There comes neural, right? With false fluency, potential hallucinations, the earlier generation of neural machine translation would complete the sentence in the most random way and completely irrelevant to what the source was. So I think it's very, very similar that you understand the core principles of how large language models operate, and that's how you can actually look for hallucinations, look for biases, and know how to deal with them if you're a validator or a prompt engineer. There is another dimension to it. What I mentioned was if you can say design a prompt or run a translation, run a set of automated metrics like BLEU, Meteor, F measure, and you can actually understand what they mean. That gets you extra bonus points because you also speak the data science language. I hope I answered the question. Yes, MTPE, it's MTPE++.
Great. Okay, we have a couple minutes left. There's one other question that just came in. Is there any advice for researchers with limited resources? I'm a master's student working on low resource language translation, but it's kind of hard for me to find the right path to align with the trend. I somehow feel like my research area was kind of dated. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Olga.
Well, how much time do we have? I mean, I'm very passionate about long resource languages and very passionate we, as a language technology and services providers, we cover 250 languages, and quite often our production team reaches out and say like, hey, we have long tail Indic languages, what do we do? I don't think, by no means is your research obsolete. And again, I mentioned something, for years we were talking about digital divide, and now the new term surfaced, AI divide. And I would say that your work is absolutely priceless. Whether you're gathering training corpora for long tail languages, whether you're a part of an open source initiative to gather training corpora, whether you train or fine tune models for long tail languages. And it ties back to, again, smaller language models tailored for specific long tail languages. I think not only is it not obsolete, it is more important than ever. I would quote that no language left behind initiative. No, it's a big definitive no. It's absolutely super priceless and super valuable research.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Okay, great. Well, we're just about out of time. I wanted to thank everyone so much for spending the last 45 minutes with us. I want to thank Olga and the team for working hard to think about these different predictions and coming up with thoughtful answers. This has been, I think on behalf of all of us at Smartling, we're really excited about what the future holds for the industry in 2025 and beyond. And I think right now this is, to me, being a part of this industry and a part of what's happening from a technology perspective, this is one of the most interesting places to be in technology today. We're smack dab in the middle of an industry that is being significantly impacted and will benefit from Gen AI in particular, and just having this role and the seat at the table to be a part of that. To be a part of that is really a lot of fun. So I hope you enjoy all of that with us, and that we have the opportunity to learn from each other in the future. So with that, we'll end the broadcast. Thanks so much. Looking forward to spending time with you all later.